Alex Gaaserud. He formerly ran for Congress. He is now a candidate for the U.S. Senate seat currently held by the incumbent Shelley Moore Capito, and he's been on this program many times. Alex, good morning. How are you, sir?
Good morning, Rob. Good morning, Jonathan and Matt. I hope everyone's doing great in Eastern Panhandle today.
Where do we find you located at this hour?
Parkersburg.
Parkersburg. What brings you there, sir?
That's where I live.
Oh, I did. When did you move to Parkersburg?
Before the election of 2024, I'd say, November of 23.
Oh, very good. What brought you to Parkersburg?
Just changed careers and got my wife a little closer to home, and she's originally from Ravenswood in Jackson County, so left Elkins, left the cold.
Yeah, man.
How, with all the weather we've had, how's the river? How high is the river? Is it still up there?
I think it's adequate. I don't think it's too high or anything like that, but yeah, we've had a lot of weather lately for sure, a lot of rain.
Have you been around for a Big Reds home game yet?
I have not made it to a Big Reds home game yet, but I'll definitely be doing that this fall coming up. I'll probably hit a Parkersburg South game as well.
Yeah, I don't know if it still is, but I have done 2 games from Parkersburg High School, and it is one of the great tailgate and home field sites, at least it used to be anyway, in the state. It's an experience that should be had. Yeah,
from what I gather, Parkersburg has produced a lot of great athletes over the years.
Nick Swisher, I guess, right? Yeah, he came out of Parkersburg.
Yeah, I remember when Nick Swisher and they came and played against Martinsburg, and he got flattened a bunch of times. It was beautiful. As a Bulldog fan, I say that. Nice kid, though, and it's great seeing him excel in the NFL.
Hey, let's talk about the Senate race here, Alex. And over the weekend, President Trump endorsed the incumbent, your opponent, Shelley Moore Capito, for that seat. Your thoughts on that endorsement?
That must be the kiss of death, right? My goodness, a Trump endorsement in a Trump state. It doesn't surprise me at all. I think the first takeaway I have is I'm glad that he came out with this endorsement basically a year ahead of time. Nobody in the media, nobody in the press, the little press media we have in the state has asked her kind of point blank yet, hey, do you plan on seeking re-election? She hasn't released any statements on seeking re-election of recent. So with the president coming out and endorsing her for this run in 26, it at least commits her to running and takes a lot of the questions off the table that I think a lot of West Virginians and the political class had, was maybe she's going to retire, that sort of thing. I was very steadfast in telling folks that, listen, she's climbed to the 4th most powerful position in Senate leadership. She's on the verge of, if she retires, conceding her now 3rd-generation political family dynasty to Congressman Moore, which I doubt she wants to do. And I know that from following these politicians basically my entire life, they're so addicted to it that the chances of them leaving on their own, saying my service over 25 years is enough, they like to be wheeled out of there. So it doesn't really surprise me that she's seeking re-election or that Trump's endorsing her. That's part of, the power calculation of Republicans right now wanting to retain the Senate, wanting to retain the House of Representatives, and we've seen that. The other big takeaway from this, which I'm really excited about, is the field will be kind of cleared off of this. Who's going to run against Donald Trump? Who's going to run against the most popular Republican president in my lifetime and probably one of the most transformational political figures of our entire history as a nation? Who's going to run against the West Virginia State Republican Party? And who's going to run against the political and business established class? So I think I'm the only one that's willing to meet these people head on, even if it's with reckless abandonment and very little money. So I think that, there's a great chance that it could just be her and I on the ballot. And I, again, think the conditions in West Virginia are right. I think that Capito is very unpopular. I think that there's many people that won't vote for her, even though Donald Trump's endorsed them. And we're going to not allow these people just to run unadulterated anymore in West Virginia politics. It's not their birthright. And we're going to highlight her record, her voting record, as well as the outcomes that we've seen, particularly in West Virginia, over the last 25 years of her service.
Are you assuming Derek Evans will discontinue his run for the same seat?
I believe Derek will run against Carroll again. I think that that's probably the best choice for him at this juncture. I don't foresee him staying in this fight very long. I think that he's got a much better chance in a closed primary in the 1st Congressional District running against Carroll again. I think it would also help him, even if he wasn't successful in this bid, to continue to be in that position and to be set up for when she does eventually retire, if she's another one that wants wheeled out. So I don't think that Derek is going to stay in it. I think Derek's a Patriot to a lot of degree, but this is a race that he's going to have a hard time in. So I look to continue. I look for him to drop down and to run for West Virginia 1.
Don't be making fun of us old people who need wheeled out there, young man.
Well, I mean, yeah, I hear you.
Mr. Matt Miller.
Take me to how you're going to do this. I'm listening to what you're talking about as Shelley Moore Capito rising to the 4th most powerful position in the Senate. You mentioned it may just be you and her, because who else wants to run against Shelley Moore and all of the things that are maybe behind her here in the state of West Virginia? So if you're that candidate that says, I want to take this on, how do you overcome all of that?
That's a great question. Imagine calling, Republican donors right now that donate to MAGA candidates, anti-establishment candidates like myself, even people that think that Capito is a horrific Republican or horrific conservative and is more of a liberal, calling them and saying, hey, I want you to support me. I want you to donate to me while you're running against somebody that has Donald Trump's endorsement. So that endorsement made things very difficult. Not that they weren't difficult before, but I believe, again, the conditions are right. And what I'm going to do is travel around the state of West Virginia and go to community and counties and speak to the people about why we need change in West Virginia, why we're a state that's desperate for change in West Virginia. And I'm the person that is able to articulate that in a way that I don't think other candidates are. I'm going to highlight her voting record. I'm going to highlight the outcomes we have in West Virginia. For basically my entire life, we've been in a situation in West Virginia where countless communities wake up every single morning and bathe and drink poisonous water while they're not connected to the internet. I'm fighting for that senior in high school that just graduated that plans on never returning to West Virginia, never starting a family or starting a business in West Virginia. I'm fighting for the veteran and the people that have been left behind by the state. State's outcomes are awful, and her voting record as a conservative is awful. I mean, we could sit here for the next 2 hours and go through different votes that she's made over her career that are not conservative. And when I was 16 years old, I got a vehicle, and in that vehicle was Sirius XM satellite radio, and I started listening to the Patriot Channel, Andrew Wilkow, and the Wilkow Majority. And he always opens his show, and I don't listen to him much anymore, but he opens his show every time the same way. He's an individual patriot first, a conservative second, a Republican third. And I believe that even though it's a tall task and the political business established class is against me, the President of the United States is technically against me, I'd be defying what my party wants in the state of West Virginia. I have a responsibility as a leader of this state and somebody that will get to these positions eventually to go out here and fight for West Virginians and give West Virginians a choice. Give them a real choice. And I think we'll be very surprised on May 12th of 2026 when the votes come in if it's just her and I on the ballot. She's very unpopular right now. Now, a lot of people don't know who I am, so I need money to get out the word and everything. But we're going to continue to travel around and to speak and to engage voters and to get volunteers mobilized and to organize. And we're going to continue to try to raise money, even though that environment got a lot more difficult to operate in.
Jonathan Baldwell.
Alex, let me ask you this. What are, just a couple of major things that you differ from Senator Capito on?
Well, I believe, first of all, we need to have somebody that is connected with the community, connected with the people. Senator Capito doesn't return constituents' phone calls. She doesn't go out and face the people. She doesn't hold town halls. She doesn't go to the frontline Republicans. She doesn't go to the people. She stays in these kind of well-choreographed events, whether it's with the Hospital Association or the Oil and Gas Association or Friends of Coal. She goes into these controlled environments where nobody can ask her anything, where she doesn't have to defend herself. And I don't believe that's public service. So I want to get back to a service-oriented mission as a United States Senator, But ultimately, I'm going to vote much different than she's voted. She voted to send all kinds of money to Ukraine. She's continued to vote for liberal causes, and I don't take to that. I think that her record, when you look at the conservative rating agencies across the state, across the country, they constantly give her an F rating. Her Liberty score is like 46%. So I would vote completely different than her, but I also bring a young, aggressive style of leadership to West Virginia, and inspirational. Shelley Moore Capito is not inspiring anybody. She's not working to keep people in the state. She's working to stay in power. So I think it's time to go. I also am different from her because I'm not going to try to stay there forever. Here we are 25 years in. At some point you need to look at the math and say, my service hasn't been characterized by a lot of success. We've got terrible outcomes in my home state of West Virginia. We continue to decline and decay as a state. Most of our state looks like a bomb has gone off 50 years ago and nobody remembered to clean it up. And not to mention, she wasn't for Trump. She wasn't for the MAGA agenda. She's very much a liberal Republican, as I am a intellectual MAGA conservative Republican.
What are one or two things that she has voted for that you would have voted against, or that she's voted against that you would have voted for? Just differentiate yourself a little more, please, for me.
Well, he mentioned Ukraine already, so you can skip that one, Alex.
Ukraine. There's four votes that are really hurting her right now. Respect for Marriage Act, the endless amount of money to Ukraine. In addition, she has continued to fund these omnibus packages and these reckless spending bills. We're not in that single subject 12 appropriation bills lane. She doesn't want to do that. She wants to continue to fund the government through force from the Senate leadership telling everybody how they should fund it. If you don't vote, we're going to run people against you. If you don't vote the way we want. So I want to fund the government completely different than she is. She's continued to pass reckless, wasteful omnibus packages and has done nothing to stand up for it. I never heard her talk about fiscal responsibility. Never hear her talk about why we need to change business in Washington, D.C., because we continue to balloon the debt. The way we do business in Washington, D.C. continues to balloon the debt.
So do you think the fact that she's the number 4 Republican in the majority in the Senate, do you think she is using that position well enough to help the people of the state of West Virginia?
No. Look, I'm big on reducing government, right? I want to reduce government. I ran a campaign on reducing government, and a lot of Republicans did. But she's slow to react to jobs that we're losing here that the federal government's axing. They're talking about potentially axing some jobs in Fairmont at NASA. And she says, well, they're not going to reduce the budget by 40 or 60 million. It might only be 20 million. She doesn't know. The administration isn't keeping her in the loop. She doesn't have any information. She was slow to respond to NIOSH. I mean, she's got her hands full right now. And she doesn't, you would think somebody that has privilege to this information and has this sort of staff in place would have better answers for the people of West Virginia. She doesn't. She doesn't have a good answer. She seems to be flat-footed on this. Are you for the government reducing jobs and reducing the blow to the federal government, or are you not? You can't be for both. And she wants to have it, both ways, because she's constantly always calculating politically what she needs to say to try to keep people happy. And that's not leadership. We need new leadership in West Virginia. We need young leadership. We need people that are ready to inspire a new generation of West Virginians to work, live, and play. We need, if I was the fourth most powerful person in Senate leadership, I would be doing everything in my power to fix our water system in this state. I'd be doing everything in my power to raise awareness, to prevent another generation from losing their lives to opioids. And she cannot relate to West Virginians like I can. I can go into a school and I can talk to people that have been touched by poverty. I can talk to people that have been touched by addiction, because I grew up with a generation of West Virginians that were touched by poverty and addiction. She can't do that. And it's time, if we want to stop being a last-place state, it's time we stand up and elect new leadership and actually elect a real conservative. I can do this job better sleepwalking than Jim Justice can awake. If I had the staff that she had, if I had the access that she had, if I had the platform that she had, I would do a much better job of lifting this state up. And it needs it.
Let me ask you this here. We got just a couple minutes to go. I can't think of a time in my life when paying senators and congressmen, women, a salary has been a bigger waste of funds, because all of them have had their power stripped by President Trump, who governs by executive order. So executive order requires nothing from senators or from congressmen. So I'm not really sure why we need any of you right now, to be honest with you, because other than working on this budget right now, which if you object to it, you get a visit from President Trump, and he tells you the reasons why you better vote for it. And even those who praise this budget the most admit it adds more money to the federal deficit. So with President Trump in power, what difference does it make which senator or congressman is elected, Alec? Because you're all going to just watch the executive orders fly by or bend the knee once you get pressure to vote for what he wants you to vote for.
Well, I think that's why you're seeing a lot of these endorsements coming out so early, because the Trump administration knows that eventually they're going to need Congress to codify a lot of the actions that they've taken in this wonderful first 100 days in office. So, the Senate and the House have got to step up and take their rightful place within the government, because I do agree. I think that the power with the executive right now is really trumping, no pun intended, the legislative branch. So I think that you've got to get Congress to codify a lot of what Trump has done, and I think the Trump administration realizes that. I just don't think that they're willing to get to that point yet. But if we don't win the midterms, then we're not going to be able to codify anything anyway. So then Congress is going to be in a predicament where they're going to have to take some of their power back. But as far as pay for Congress and those sorts of things, I'd be donating some of my salary back to the taxpayers, and I definitely wouldn't be voting for any pay increases, especially with the trajectory of their performance over the last 30, 40 years.
I have a minute left here, and real quickly, we visited this before, but why have you not run for House of Delegates or State Senate or County Commission? Why bite off the biggest piece of fruit right away?
Yeah, great question. Again, I'm looking for full-time work in politics. I started a Young Republican Club in my high school in 2008. I got a degree in political science. I was on my debate team. I've been looking and studying politics since I was 6 or 7 years old. Nobody thought that Alex Rodriguez wasn't able to hit a home run in the major leagues, right? Everybody knew he could. It was just a matter of them putting him there at 19 years old so he could start to play. I just need an opportunity to play. I don't want to come across as arrogant in any way, but I have a God-given ability and a set of skills that I believe would be best executed for the people of West Virginia. We could have the maximal result that we want in this state by electing the youngest United States senator in the country from one of the oldest, sickest, poorest states.
Alec, appreciate you calling in. Have a good day, sir. Always good to catch up with you.